Welcome back to Tech. In this tutorial, we'll be going over lists in Python. This tutorial is a continuation of our Python series. So in this tutorial, we'll be going over one of the data structures in Python known as list. List, you can think of it if you're coming from other programming backgrounds. Your list is an array, but in Python it's called a list. And in Python, lists are mutable, meaning that you can they have dynamic length. You can add things, you can remove them like that. So let's get to it. So to create a list in Python is very simple. Give it an identifier. Let's say my list, and then square brackets, and then you can put in here any data type. So you can put in integers, you can put in here strings, you can put in here strings, you can put in here any other data structures. We talk about integers, talk about string. You can put in here even other lists. Okay, so let's put in another list, something like that. Okay, so inside of this list you can put other data structures, and you can mix the data structures, unlike programming language like Java or C++, whereby we explicitly say the type of the data that we want to store inside the array. In Python we can store any data type because Python is a dynamically typed programming language. So this is what a list is in Python. So just call it square brackets, and in here you can put in any type of data type you want. You can put in other lists, dictionaries, spiral, strings, integers, floats, any data type you can put in there. So we have learned about for loops in the previous tutorial. So let's use a for loop to loop through this list that we have created, since a list is an iterable in Python. So let's say for content in my underscore list, let's print out the content. Okay, so now we have done that. So for content in my list, let's print out the content. So let's run this code. We see we get 1, which is the first, and then 3, and then okay, you see that. Okay, so now let me talk to you about something very important in Python. In Python list we have something known as indexes. Now indexes are used to pull data out of a list and store data inside of a list. So now, as we have said, computers start counting from 0, 1, 2, 3, and onwards like that. So the first element of a string of a list has an index of 0. So this has an index of 0, this has an index of 1, this has an index of 2, 3, and then so on and so forth. So this is indexes 0, its index is 1, 2, 3, its index is 4, its index is 5. Okay, so this is why these are indexes in list. So for example, let's say you want to print out a specific element from a specific index. Let's say that you know the index of the string Python. So we want to print out that index. So you say the string the array's name, and then square brackets, and then you put in here the index that you want to print out. So this is we want to print out the string Python. So this is 0, 1, 2, 3, and 4. So if you put in here 4, we should print out Python on the screen. So if you run this, we get Python. So this is how you can use indexes to print out values. So if you want to print index 0, that element at index 0 is 1. So if you run this, we get this. Now let's say that you want to print the element of the last index. So this we'll discuss it. We'll learn about a function in Python, and then we'll talk about that one. So let's leave it for now. Okay, now let's move on to another type of list in Python. These are called two-dimensional lists. So two-dimensional lists, you can think of it like a matrix. If you have done mathematics, you can think of it like matrix. So two-dimensional lists mean that a list having like other lists inside of it. So it is a multi-dimensional list. It's called a two-dimensional list. Okay, so a list having other lists inside of it. So let's say we have 1, 2, 3, and then comma. So after every element in a list we put comma. Okay, so 4, 5, 6, and then we want another element which is a list, then we want 7, 8, and 9. So here we want we have a multi-dimensional array. So if I print out this on the screen, we'll see this, we get this on the screen. So now let's say that we want to print it so that the string format can appear like this. We'll do this using a for loop. So to do this, we can just say for row in my underscore list, we want to print out that row. Okay, so let's run this code and we see what we get. So we get this data structure. So you can see this is very familiar to like matrix in mathematics. So this is what a two-dimensional array is. Okay, so these are the rows, these are the rows, when these are the columns. Okay, so that's why you're calling it a multi-dimensional array. So these are the rows, row and row, and these are the column, column and column. Okay, now it's not a must that you must have like equal number of elements inside each array. Inside of two-dimensional array, you can have any kind of number of elements. So this, if you have this kind of structure whereby the number of elements in each nested list is not equal, is called a jagged array. Okay, so this is a jagged array, while this is just a normal two-dimensional array. Okay, two-dimensional arrays whereby the count of elements in each list within the main list is the same, while a jagged array is that the number of elements are not the same basically. Okay, fine. Now we are printing, if you print this on the screen, we are getting this structure. Okay, now let's imagine that we want to print the content within each of these lists. Okay, so now what can we do? In the previous tutorial we studied about nested loops, so this is where we apply one of the areas where we can apply nested loops. Okay, so we can go for number in rows. Okay, we call it row, and then we want to print that number out. Okay, now let's run the program and you see. So we can see we got everything on the line. Now let's explain the logic behind the code. So we go to the first iteration. This iteration returns to us a list. So let's print that list here so you can see what is actually happening. Print row. So this returns to us a list. Okay, so within that we are going to also loop through that list. We are going to loop through that list to print out the individual element within that list. So that is what this nested for does. So this the first nested for loop gets us the rows, while the second for loop gets us the columns, which happen to be the individual data within that specific array. So this will grab us the rows, while this will grab us the columns. Okay, so now if you run this, you will see. So you can see the first one. Okay, the first one is the first array, which you can see up here. So we loop through it. We got the first iteration, we got 1, the second iteration we got 2, third iteration we got 3, and then we moved on to so our program got this list here. It came over here, looped through it, and printed out these values. After it was done, it went back to the main loop. The main loop grabbed us the second row, which is this one over here. We went through this nested for loop. We printed out everything. We looped through that specific list. We printed out everything. After that, we jump back. We grab the last one. We print it out. So that's how we get this pattern. So I hope you understand. So this is how we can use nested for loops to work with multi-dimensional arrays or lists or jagged lists. Okay, so let's in the next section of so this brings us to the basics of lists in Python. So in the next section we'll be going over methods that you can use to work with lists. So see you there. Hello guys, welcome back to the second section of this tutorial on lists. So in this section we'll be going over the various methods that you can use with lists. So let's get started. So in the previous tutorial we ended on this section whereby we used the nested for loop to print through a multi-dimensional list. So let's create another list. You can call it my list, and then we put in here to 5. We put in 1 through 5. So let's move to the first method that we can use in list. This is actually not a method, this is a function. So this function is called the length function. So you can put in your length, and then we put in the okay. Now Python is very like English, so you can just by looking at this code you can guess what is going to print out. Length LEN stands for, it's a short form of length. So if you pass then the length function and place in the list that we want to print its length out, this program will return to us the length of that specific string. So the length of it is 5 because there are 5 different elements inside that list. So that is the first function to work with list. So let's move on to another function. You can also say max. So the max, if you run this, is going to return to us the maximum value inside of this list. Okay, so let's say the maximum, now we put in 22. Okay, it's fine, to 320. If you run this, what do you think the output will be? We get 320 because it's the maximum value inside of that list. So let's move on to another function. It is the main function in list with list. So if you run this, it's going to return to us the lowest element. So it is 1. Okay, so we can also use this working with strings. In case you put in your other strings, it will also work. So now let's move on to another method. Let's move on to another method in okay, and let's move on to, actually sorry, not another method, our first method, because the ones we have discussed right now are known as method functions. Okay, so let's go to the methods that are within the string class. Okay, so the first one is append method. So my list, we mention the name of the list and then .append. Append in English is basically to add something to another thing. So let's remove all of this. We have 1 through 5. Let's say we want to add 6 to our list, so we can just put in here 6. If we run this, we'll have 1 through 6. Okay, we didn't print it out, so let's print it out. Print out my underscore list. So if we print this out, we'll get 1 through 6. But you can see that 6 was previously not there, but this method is used to add something to an existing list. So let's use, we can also use this in a for loop to add elements to our list. So let's create an empty list here. Let's say for number, sorry, in range 11. We already discussed range, you know why I'm putting 11, but I'm actually going to get 10 values. So my list dot append, we're going to append number. So if you run this code right now, we are going to get no output because you're not printing out anything. So print my underscore list. So if we run this code right now, we are going to get a list containing elements from 0 through 10. Okay, so we can use this in a for loops to automatically add values, because it's very tedious to go in and add in values automatically. So imagine we want to add it like 1000, we'll spend like the whole day just adding that. So we can use a for loop to do that. So this append method, which is used to add elements to a list. So let's move on to the other method. Let's just comment this out, we'll come to use it later on. Okay, now let's just uncomment it out. So this is going to add elements to our list. Now our next method is called okay, let's say my lists underscore list dot remove, the remove method. So the remove method takes in an object. So in our list here, we have added something into our list. These are known as object, because in Python is an object-oriented programming language. Everything in Python is an object. So we pass in an object. We know that in our list we have from 0 through 10. So let's say we want to remove 6. So if you run this, we are going to remove 6. So you can see okay, after removing it, we need to print it out again. So print my list, and then okay, we print it out again. Let's run the code. So we get, you see, the first list which we printed before removing 6 out, we got 6, but the second one which we printed after removing list, this one over here, this print statement, we did not find list in our list anymore. So that is the second method. Let's move on to the third method. In strings, we have discussed something known as indexes. So let's say that we want to get index of a certain element within our list. So let's say my print, okay, let's use another line. So print my list dot index. So we want to find index of a certain element inside our list. So let's say we want to find the index of 0. Okay, so let's run this. It's going to return the index of 0 is actually 0, because by the index starts from 0. So this is 0, this is 1, 2. Okay, so if you now print the index of 5, if you run this, let's see what we get. We get 5 because it starts from 0. In this case, it just happens that the indexes are like that. Okay, so now to prevent, let's print from 1, 10. Okay, so run this. So now index of this, okay, let me explain to you the range what I've done here. So the range method function rather can text, you can see over here, it takes the start and the stop. So you're starting from 1 and you're going to print until 10, but the last value here is going to be ignored. So 11 will be ignored, so we'll end at 10. So that's what I have done here to remove the 0. So if you run, you can see here our index of 5, it is 4. So let's count. This is 0, 1, 2, 3, and 4. So that's why you're getting index of 4. Okay, so that is our third method in with list. So let's move on to another method. So the other method that we're going to be going over is the pop method. So let's say my list dot pop. Now this method, what it does, it removes the last element out of the list. So now let's just uncomment this, comment out this, and then we run the code. We get a list containing the last element to be 10. Now let's uncomment this and run our code again. So now we will not see the, okay, I have okay, let me move, because I did not print it out after removing the content. So let's run this again. So you can see that 10 is gone. Okay, so after running the pop function, let me just copy this and show you. So let me run the code again. So now you can see before running the pop method, we had 10 inside of our list, but after running the pop method, which removes the last element out of the list, we can find that 10 is removed out. So that's what the pop function does. So if you copy this and paste it twice, so this, the first one remove 10 out, the second remove 9 out. So if you run this, the last element should be 8. You can see here it is 8. So it removes the last element out of the list. So now let's move to the last method in our list. This method is the pop method. So now sorry, not the pop method, the copy method. So the copy method, it does what it's the function is, the method says. It copies a list to another list. So let's say my list 2 will be equals to, we specify the list and then dot copy. So it copies everything from, let's put in here 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay, 5. It copies everything from my list 2 into my list 2. Okay, so now if you print out my underscore list, we'll print out the first list, and then we'll print out again, we'll print out list 2. So if you print list 1 and list 2, they should have the same content, because we just copied content from list 1 to list 2. This is the list 1 and this is the list 2. Okay, so perfect. Let's move on. So are these two lists linked to each other? So let's find out, are these two lists independent from each other? So let's do something here. So let's say print, not print, sorry, my underscore list 2 dot append. You're going to append 6 to list 2. So we are adding 6 to list 2. Is this going to affect list 1, or is list 2 completely independent of list 1? So let's run this and see. We'll get that we'll get 6 inside of list 2, but 6 is not inside of list 1. So this shows that list 2 is completely independent of list 1. So these are two completely separate entities and are located in different parts of the memory. Okay, so this one just copies everything inside of it, but it's not linked to it. So this is what you can do. Some of the few methods in list. There are many other methods. So one of the popular methods that we use to sort list is the dot map. We can filter, map, and reduce methods. So it's just like this map, and you pass in something, and then it passes in a function. So we will not be discussing this over here. So these are basically used to sort lists in Python. So I have a tutorial on how to sort lists using map, filter, and reduce. So please check. A card will appear on top over here, somewhere here. So just click that to take you to that tutorial, and then you can watch it. So let's try to sort a list in Python. Okay, so let's say this was 7, 27, this was 10, this was 30, and then this was 45. Now if we print out, my underscore list, what we'll get will be this as it is here. So we get 10. Now let's say that you want to arrange these things in this ending order. So let's look if you can find any method over here. So it's a sort method. So if you run this, let's see what we get. So it returns to us none. Okay, so why is that it does not return a new list? So what we'll do, copy and paste it over here, and then we'll print out my list. So now let's see what we get. We have the elements arranged in order. So this also is already in order. Let's move this to be maybe 60. This should be 77. This should be 90. Okay. Oh, again they're in order. What's wrong with me today? Okay, so 100, and then 75. Okay, so now you can see this is completely not in order. So if we print this, we're going to get it in order. So you see we get 70, 75, 77, 90, and then 100. You can see that it is completely different from the original list, because in the original one 75 was the last one, but now it's the first one. So this is how you can use to sort lists in ascending order. Now what sort does is that it does not return a new list. It just takes that one and sorts that one out. So there is so this is one of the ways you can sort. There are also many sort methods, but we won't be going over them. So if you really want to learn how to sort lists in Python, I have a whole tutorial on that. You can check it out in my channel. It is called sorting in Python using map, filter, and reduce. So you can check that tutorial out. It will help you to know how to sort in lists. So this brings us to the end of this tutorial. Thanks for watching. If you have any comment, you can leave it in the comments section below. I'll do my best to get back to you, or you can follow me on Instagram at FreeZotech in case you have any questions or suggestions. So thanks for watching. If you have not subscribed to this channel, please do. Thanks for watching. See you in the next tutorial.